You just negotiated the deal of a lifetime, you are finalizing a massive order, and the overseas factory boss offers to throw in free shipping or a dirt cheap CIF quote to get your container across the ocean. To an ambitious importer, this feels like a massive win. The margins look incredible on your spreadsheet. You sign the contract, pay the deposit, and the ocean voyage begins. You assume the hard part is over, but you haven't won a discount. You have just walked blindfolded into one of the oldest, most expensive traps in global trade. Weeks later, your cargo arrives at your local port, but you cannot touch it. Instead, a random, unknown local logistics agent contacts you, and they refuse to release the delivery order. Then you receive the invoice. It is packed with aggressive acronyms, inflated terminal handling charges, mysterious import service fees, and exorbitant document handover costs. Panicking, you email the factory boss. He calmly replies that under CIF terms, his legal and financial responsibility ended the second the container was loaded onto the ship in his country. He is legally completely clear, and your entire profit margin is wiped out in a single email. To understand how you got here, you have to look at the shadow economy of ocean freight. There is no such thing as free shipping. To win the factory's business, the overseas forwarder quoted an artificially low or even $0 rate to move the box across the ocean. To make their money back, they secretly sold the destination handling rights to that local agent at your port. That local agent is now legally empowered to gouge you with inflated arrival fees to recoup the ocean freight loss and secure a profit. The factory didn't actively steal from you. They simply protected their own margins and fed you to the wolves. But the gouging is only the first half of the trap. While you argue with this local agent over these unfair charges, the clock is ticking. Ports only offer a few days of free time. Once that window expires, the Demurrage Death Spiral begins. Daily storage and equipment fees start stacking up aggressively, often costing hundreds of dollars a day. The agent knows you are trapped. The longer you fight the fake fees, the more the real port fees accumulate. Eventually, you are forced to pay the ransom just to stop the bleeding. If you want to survive this alone, here is the exact blueprint. Step 1. Never accept CIF terms. Insist strictly on FOB or free on board. Step 2. Nominate your own domestic freight forwarder so you are the client, not the factory. Step 3. If you absolutely must use the factory's forwarder, force them to sign a stamped binding destination fee tariff sheet before you pay any factory deposits. But here is the catch. Doing this yourself requires auditing complex international invoices, managing brutal 12-hour time zone delays, and heavily policing both the factory and the forwarders simultaneously. Managing this ecosystem yourself is exhausting. That is why Infinite Panda acts as the ultimate upgrade. We don't just advise on freight, we take over the ecosystem entirely. Your cargo is routed exclusively through our vetted, transparent network. No hidden fees, no hostage situations. But let's look at what that physical firewall actually looks like on the ground, because logistics is only half the battle. A common misconception is that if your paperwork is tight, your shipment is safe, but brilliant logistics cannot fix a broken product. Imagine your container arrives, the fees are perfectly transparent, the timeline was flawless, and you open the doors only to find that the factory swapped out your premium materials for cheap substitutes at the last second. This happens constantly when suppliers realize their margins are shrinking, they can't hit you with shipping fees anymore, so they claw back their profit on the assembly line. This is where the Infinite Panda pre-shipment inspection becomes your ultimate insurance policy. Before the forwarder is authorized to pull the container into the loading bay, our boots on the ground are already inside the factory. We pull random cartons from the bottom of the pallets. We test the weight, measure the dimensions, and verify the material quality against your original golden sample. If there is a defect, an improper label, or a bait and switch on the materials, we stop the shipment right there on the factory floor. The supplier is forced to rework the goods on their own dime and on their own time. It is infinitely cheaper to fix a problem in the country of origin than it is to realize you have a container full of unsellable garbage sitting in your local warehouse. Global trade is not for the faint of heart. The system is inherently designed to pass the liability and the hidden costs down to the importer at every single checkpoint. Factories protect their manufacturing margins, and local agents exploit the shipping gaps. When you operate without a control tower, you are fighting a multi-front war across different time zones, languages, and legal systems. You can spend your days auditing tariffs, arguing with agents, and praying your quality holds up. Or you can plug into an infrastructure that was built to prevent these fires from starting in the first place. Whether you do it the hard way or our way, the goal is control. With Infinite Panda, you don't just get a service, you get absolute leverage. From the factory floor to your final destination, we are the firewall, protecting your cargo, your margins, and your peace of mind.